Hello, my friends. I'm Pearl of Wisdom, and you're listening to Perlo's NHL Trade Talk. Let's call it that. Frolic. Don't forget the frolic. We just had this huge Panarin trade happen, and it went to LA. I've talked about that in Puck in Deep. Puck in Deep, if you want to go check that out, Puck in Deep. But today we're going to be looking at Vincent Trocheck now because the Rangers seem certainly to be retooling, rebuilding, whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot of rumblings out there about Vinny Trocheck heading out the door as well. We're going to look at a couple articles that I saw. Right here, you have the player card. We're going to look at Vinny Trocheck and how he's been doing the last couple of years and what kind of player he is now and what kind of value he may have on the market and where he may go. So let's get into it, shall we? When I'm doing this, of course, I'm mostly doing it on the fly because that's what I do. I got to get my naps in, man. I got like 14 naps I got to get in a day. I don't have time to sit here all day and be all professional and organized, but we're gonna have fun. All right, let's go check it out. His card here. This is from JFresh. JFresh Analytics. They have helped me immensely. I'm a professional NHL handicapper, one of the best in the land. If you want to see my work, you can go to Tony's Picks. Google Tony's Picks. Look for Stephen Duncan. That's my alias. Actually just go to Hot Cappers. Once you get on the site, go to Hot Cappers. It'll show you what cappers have done in 2026, the last month. I'll be the one on the top. All right, so go check it out because I am the leading capper on Tony's Picks the last in 2026. But okay, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about Vincent Trocheck. Vincent Trocheck, if you look here on your right down here, it says offense versus defense. And as you can tell, 2 years ago, Vincent Trocheck was fantastic, fantabulous, if you will. First liner, too, as a first liner. In the last 2 years, you can see the white one here is his even strength offense. Now, that is to do with driving offense, driving play offense for the most part. It does also include his scoring ability, goals, assists, and all that kind of stuff like that. The red one is his defense driving ability. And, he was almost up, he was well above average 2 years ago. Now you see him here basically at nothing, like terrible, 20%, 15%. Now you got to take into account, especially with the defense, that when you're on a team that's playing from behind a lot, defense is not the priority. And there's a lot of games, especially this year, where the Rangers are behind and they're just trying to score. So defense is kind of secondary. Got to take that into account. Then you got to take into account that the New York Rangers have been a shit show for 2 years with, in a sense, where they're transitioning. They obviously didn't like the lay of their players, the way things were, and they're going to try to change things up here. And it's been very tumultuous and difficult for all the players there, it seems. And it would be for him. He's only 32 years old. I know that's getting up there. Okay. He's got 4 more years. So up until he's 36 at $5.6 million. That's not bad. So any general manager is going to have to ask themselves, of course, 2 questions. Can Vincent Trocheck get back to what he was 2 years ago? Personal opinion, I think he at very least can get above where he is right now. Secondly, how far is he going to fall off as he ages this way? And is this an actual aging trend rather than anything? And that would be a little scary if it was, be a little bit difficult. However, he's being played as a first liner and he's playing against very high competition. So if he were to go to a team, see, you got the competition thing, 85%, that tabulates how often he was on the ice against elite competition and so on and so forth like that. As you can see here, his even strength defense has gone down to 16%, which is really bad. But like I said, if you're playing on a bad team, quite often defense takes a back seat because you're chasing the game and you're trying to take risks to get offense, and it hurts your analytics. Their analytics have to have context. Personally, I think he can improve, maybe not as great as he was when he was 2 years ago, but certainly to a much more average number one center, or at least a well above average second line center. And if you look at the market right now, there aren't many of those out there. So teams that are looking to improve, when I went through, and you can put down in the comment section, I went through what is reasonably available on the market right now, short of something absolutely astronomical happening that you just didn't see coming. And the only players I could find were Trocheck, as centers, that is. Trocheck, Kadri, and Pettersson. Okay? So, with all that in mind, this is what you're looking at as a player. He is fairly physical. He's not incredibly physical, but when he's playing at his best, he can be a very good two-way second line center, above average second line center. All right, let's look at some of the articles. This article, make sure I tell people where it comes, because these guys work hard, these writers. Is NHL rumors? That's NHL trade rumors. His name is James Wilson. He reports, and he's reporting here. Elliot Freeman reported that Los Angeles still wants a true middle of the ice driver, and the Kings even tried to get New York Rangers center Vincent Trocheck included in the Panarin negotiations. The Kings' interest in Trocheck won't go away. Trocheck checks every box for a contender trying to get nastier down the middle. Okay, so I guess he's a little nastier, especially if you're really soft. You never want to be soft down the middle, do you? Very seldom. Very seldom. He's producing again this season with 36 points in 43 games. He's coming off a 4-year Rangers run where he's trusted in big minutes and big moments. Friedman added, the hang-up right now is Trocheck's preference to remain in the Eastern Conference, which matters with control he has via trade production. Yes, absolutely. He has vocally said he wants to stay in the Eastern Conference. Not just necessarily in the East, but the Eastern Conference. So he has a 12-team no-trade list. I probably should have went and looked at that at Puckpedia, but trust me, he did. You can check it out for yourself. He's got a 12-team no-trade list, and I imagine he's going to take most of those 12 teams out of the Western Conference as his no-trade list. He has most of it. So LA could very well be on there. He's strong here in the face-off circle. Face-off is important. It's not as important as people think, but it is important. He's not making all that much for a guy who still can play at a high-end level, especially as a second-line center against where he wouldn't face as much elite competition. 5.6 isn't bad. Even, by the time he's 36 or whatever, he may not be the greatest, maybe a third liner, but with the cap going up the way it is, he still could be okay. I mean, it's still reasonable. And not to mention, most of the teams that are going to be grabbing them right now, they're trying to win now. They're trying to win now. When it comes right down to it, they're, like I said, there's not too many centers available. This is a seller's market for sure this year. There's a lot of teams that are still in it for the playoffs. Not too many that are going, okay, we're done, like the Rangers are, and are willing to trade pieces. It is a big seller's market. Friedman notes that Detroit chased him hard before he went to New York, and that leads me to this article, which I didn't show you the article. I forgot about that. I'm just learning how to do all this stuff, my friend. So anyways, while I'm talking, I just read that article. I'll show you the next one. I'll show you the next one. Share screen. Share screen. So he has, when a player says something like, I would prefer to stay in the Eastern Conference, and he has a 12-team no trade list, there's usually a really good chance that that's exactly where he's going to end up. And I'll tell you why as I bring up this next. Add to stage. It's not adding to stage. Okay, there we go. Adding to stage. Before I bring up this next article, I'll tell you what. Let's say he doesn't have, like, for instance, Minnesota is looking for a center, and they seem to be balls out, right, ready to give up their prospects and everything. And now after Quinn Hughes, they call him up, and he's not on the list. Strangers go, hey, man, he's not on the list, or whatever. We got a deal for you. You know, and he will say, well, I don't want to go to Minnesota. And I know a lot of people, I know people or fans or everything, especially Minnesota fans, will say, so what? There's nothing you can do about it. He's not, it's not on his no trade. So he's got to go. If they actually make the deal, he has no choice. However, if you're Bill Guerin, which is the general manager, for that matter, you call the agent and he says, I don't want to go to Minnesota. Do you want to make that trade? This is the kind of power players have now. Even though they have no trade clauses, they can pretty much just say, I really don't want to go there, and I probably won't be happy if you trade for me. And as a general manager, you're like, well, I guess not much we can do. So there's trade protection for just a 12-team trade protection. Usually, Guerin may just say, look, we'll try to make you happy when you're here. We need you. Just come here and do that. But it's not very often the general manager is going to trade for a guy who doesn't want to be there. So now I got it up again. I got the actual article up. Is Vincent Trocheck finally coming to Detroit? Friedman weighs in. Bill Scott. Dominoes are falling, Patrick, after the Panarin trade. Kings pushed hard to get Trocheck, but his preference, just like I said, is to stay in the Eastern Conference. Friedman explicitly named Detroit Red Wings as a primary suitor for the 32-year-old. And yes, he did. Before he landed on Broadway, the New York Rangers retooling. So, yes, the Detroit Red Wings would be a serious contender, I would say, for him again, I would imagine. If if we go and look at, as I add it to this, as I add a new stop screen. Okay. They could use a center, no doubt about it. They could use a center of his ilk. They got young Casper there. That's assuming that, of course, that they want to to kind of put Casper on the back burner for a little bit. Of course, we know that, or we should know that Steve Yzerman hasn't been one to want to give up prospects as of late. However, last year, Dylan Larkin got really mad when he didn't add anything at the deadline last year. Like, he was pissed. He was so pissed that it got public. He wasn't very happy. There you go. So you look at the depth chart for the Detroit Red Wings, and you got Marco Casper, who they're now playing on the left side. They're just trying to get as much out of this kid as possible. I don't know. Sophomore season, he's really struggling. Very common with sophomore seasons for players. And one of the reasons why that is in your first season, your eyes are open and you're like, wow, this is amazing. You're in the NHL and you're just pushing to stay in that lineup, and you're going hard and you don't know what's up and you don't know how it's going to be. And you're a little young and dumb and not really realizing exactly how hard it is on the body and all that kind of stuff like that. And you go into the off season and everything starts to hurt. And you go, holy, you look back and go, man, oh man, that is tough stuff. Okay. Sometimes these kids get bigger contracts. They get, the millions in their pocket and they go out on vacation instead of hitting the gym, like say a Michkov in Philly or whatever, because he came out of shape. I don't know if Casper did or whatever, but he's starting to work his way up. I get a feeling he might have been, because they started him low real quick in the lineup, and now they've kind of worked him up to the top line again, and he's really struggled hard. So it takes, quite often for most players anyways, it takes a while to realize what it means to be a professional hockey player and the work that goes into it. So he's playing with Larkin and Raymond right now. DeBrincat, Andrew Kopp, and Patrick Kane. Okay, give Andrew Kopp a little. He's not a second line center. He's not. He's got some offense to him. He does what he can. He's a third line center and probably just an average one at that. So getting Trocheck in here, who I said, as long as you think you can bring him back, and Detroit was a team that was going after him here with the New York Rangers, and he said he wanted to stay in the Eastern Conference. I don't know how much that would be. Detroit would be on the list for that. Not too far away from New York, but it wouldn't be on his no trade list. That's more than likely. So I don't think he would be too unhappy to go to a team that's in a playoff spot, relatively young, building, and ready to continue being a contender for the next couple of years. I think this is a very likely possibility that it could work out that way for him. Capper, they for $5 million. I mean, they have $12 million in cap space, so they wouldn't even have to give up a player back. And I don't think they'd want to in this situation, unless Marco Casper is part of the deal. But the question is, how much is the ask? All right. Going back to the LA situation where they were trying to get Trocheck as well in the deal. What I heard was what they were offering was Fogle, Turcotte, and a first-round pick on top of the Panarin deal to get Trocheck. So Fogle, Turcotte, and a first-round pick. So that being said here, I think when we look at the other possibilities here that Trocheck could go to, I think it's going to cost you a first and a good prospect in this buyer's market. You're going to push the envelope. Unless Trocheck says he only wants to go to Detroit. See, now Boston could call him up and say, he could say, I really don't want to go there. He can really, and Boston would be like, like he can really affect what the return is going to be in this deal. Now, he's got a couple of years left on his contract, so the Rangers can easily say, look, he's staying in New York unless you give me blah, blah, blah. And I think that's what they'll do. And I have a feeling in this market, they can get a first-round pick and a prospect for Trocheck. I have a gut feeling on that. That's kind of where I would say that would land. Now, in the article that I just showed you, they said a first-round pick or a top prospect. It depends on the prospect too. So let's look at what it would be. I'm pretty sure they don't want to get rid of. They don't want to lose. They don't want to lose anybody off the roster. If they're getting them, certainly not Andrew Kopp. Andrew Kopp's a Michigan boy. They brought him in. He's like a rah. Like, it would really hurt, I think, the room to lose an Andrew Kopp. Maybe a JT Compher. I could see that. That's a possibility. So JT Compher's 30 years old. I don't know how much the Rangers are really going to be interested in that, but they do need people to fill in the roster. I think he'd be more of a throw-in than anything. One thing he would do is he would equal out the value of the contract, so Detroit could even do more work after this, which would be a huge benefit. So the Rangers would basically say, look, we'll take JT Compher, sure, okay? But you're going to have to still add pretty much the same thing. If we're taking JT Compher, doesn't really matter to us if we have JT Compher or not. So it's not going to take away from the fact that we still want a really good prospect and a first round pick or something of that nature. So let's say they give the first. They give JT Compher up. Okay. That means that they're giving away this almost the same amount of money back to the Rangers. The Rangers can take JT Compher and get a pick out of it right away. You can do anything like that. It is an asset to them. But Detroit would be able to still add after Trocheck, which would be a big benefit to them. Now, you're not getting any of these guys, Seider, Sherratt, maybe Albert Johansson, but I know they're really high on him. Not really sure why, but they are. So I don't think that would likely be it. It's going to be someone down here in the prospect pool, in the minor leagues, what have you. For sure the Rangers are going to be looking at Nate Danielson, and for sure Detroit's going to be doing everything in their power to not include Nate Danielson. He's projecting to be a solid middle six, at least, possibly at second line, almost the same, maybe even as good as Trocheck. Very good defensively, strong two-way guy, all of that kind of stuff like that. They could look at Michael Nygaard Brancic Nygaard, but his offense is really going to take some time. He might end up being just a third line defensive guy. But those would be the guys that I think that they would be looking at here. The Rangers would, because I don't think the Rangers ultimately want to rebuild. They want to get, and this is what most teams are doing now. If you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins as well, the way they've been picking up like Shinnikov, Mantha, a lot of Novak, who was relatively young when they got him. Young players, but that can play in the lineup now, so you can quicken this rebuild as fast as possible. I'm pretty sure that's what they were going to be looking for. If the Rangers want to look at defense, which I think they wouldn't be a bad idea. They don't really have many defensive prospects in there. William Wallander has been percolating for quite some time. However, he is a straight defensive defenseman. His offense has never really got off the ground. But from what I understand, he's an excellent defensive defenseman. He's 23 years old. He should have been cooked enough now that he's ready next year. So they're going to have to talk to their scouts and maybe see what they think of Wallander, if he's going to be a guy that can play in your top four. I don't think they're going to look at goaltenders. However, they do have Sebastian Cossa and Trey Augustine. Both of those goaltenders are exceptional. In fact, Cossa should be in the NHL next year, no doubt about it. He's being fantastic. He's doing fantastic in the AHL. What's his numbers? 199 and a .926. Now the Rangers don't really need, they have Shesterkin, so I'm not sure that either one of those young goaltenders would be too happy going to a place where they're probably not going to be a number one for quite some time. But I mean, it's a possibility. They drafted that Carter Bear kid last year. You got Dylan James, who has been doing not bad in the, Dylan James, who's been doing not bad in college. I wouldn't call him a top prospect though. Dmitry Bachalnikov has kind of slipped from last year. As far as offense in the KHL, but from what I've been told, he should be a good middle six guy. So they got quite a few guys that they could throw in here. I think the poste restance, the one that's going to turn the needle, the one that they're going to be going after, is Nate Danielson, without a doubt, in my mind. If it's Wallander, it's definitely going to have to include a first-round pick. And they have their first in 2026. I could see Wallander and the 2026 first round pick for Trocheck, and maybe JT Compher too. JT Compher, Wallander, and a first round pick. Clearly could see that. Now I'll go through some of the other teams that I've heard have shown interest. The Boston Bruins apparently have showed interest in Trocheck. Now, the problem with the Boston Bruins, though, is that they don't really have much to give up. Like, I don't think they can compete with Detroit with the prospects. I don't know if they'd be happy to give up a first-round draft pick for a 32-year-old right now. I have heard that this is not a rebuild. This is definitely a retool, and they are going to be adding in one way or another, either now at the deadline or in the off season. They're going to be looking for free agents and all those sort of things like that. They do have Toronto's first and their own first, so maybe they'd be willing to give one of those up. Pavel Zacha. I could bring up his card from JFresh, but he is not as good as Trocheck. And so they could have like an improvement and give Zacha back with a pick or something like that. One thing they don't have much is prospects. Their prospect pool is pretty slim. So I don't think they could compete with Detroit for a return here. So as long as Trocheck isn't too bothered by either going to Boston or going to Detroit, I still say Detroit wins in that race. As far as Carolina would be another one. Carolina's been looking for a second line center. Now, he already played in Carolina before, and no longer plays there now. Not too sure how interested he would be to go to Carolina, but they do have Bradley Nadeau, who's doing really well in the AHL. And I think that would be of interest to the New York. He would be of interest to the New York Rangers. He's a point-a-game player. He probably could be doing okay in the NHL right now if Carolina wasn't so deep on the wings. And I wouldn't be surprised, actually, if he's kind of nudging Carolina saying, if you don't have room for me, you don't have room for me. So you could take Bradley Nadeau. They do have a first-round pick. And you could put Trocheck in Carolina to make Carolina's got quite a bit of cap space, so you don't have to make the money work. But if they were willing to take Kokoniemi back, the Rangers that is, from Carolina, they've been trying to pawn him off on somebody for quite some time, who's making like $4 million for the next couple of years. They could probably get another pick out of Carolina. Like Carolina would add a second to give up Kokoniemi. It's just not working out there. I don't know if it's going to work out anywhere for Kokoniemi, but Rangers can give him a shot. And if you're going to get an extra second out of the deal, why not? So that isn't a bad option too. They do need a second line center. Stankoven is playing second line center there for Carolina, and it's not bad, but it's not ideal. It would be much better for Stankoven to go down with Stahl like he did before, playing a shutdown role. And then you would have Trocheck, Hall, and Blake, and it would be a much deeper team. Now, the one thing I got to say about Carolina is, to me, it feels like they're going after the big fish. Whenever big fish come up, they were in on the Panarin deal. They wanted Panarin. Panarin didn't want to go there. They obviously went out and got Rantanen, and that didn't work out. I just have a feeling that if it ain't a big fish, they're just going to roll with what they got. So if you're asking me where he's going to end up, and let me know in the comment section where you think he may end up with everything I said. If you have any disagreements with what's going on, tell me what you think about players having so much power to be able to, sway general managers to the place that they want to go and all that kind of stuff like that. But in my mind right now, I would say, here's the other thing about the Carolina deal, is it's interdivision. And I don't think the Rangers are planning on going this deep rebuild for 5 years. So I don't think they're really looking forward to giving Carolina, who is a big rival of theirs, an upper hand with Trocheck. So I have a feeling that if there are other options in the Atlantic, that's probably where he's going to go. So I think it's going to be Detroit. That's where I think he's going to end up. Detroit wants him bad. Detroit wanted him bad before, was trying when he went to New York. So there's one other option, and then I'm going to head out here. The New York Islanders. New York Islanders are a possibility. They do have draft picks, and they could use a second line center for sure. It is New York, so I imagine it's still New York. It's but I just don't see the Rangers, definitely the Islanders, giving them an opportunity to become better as they try to quickly, and I believe this will be quickly, turn this ship around and get back on the winning train again. So I think it's going to be Detroit. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. Tell me what you think about this video. And if you would like to hear more of this fine content, remember, it's Olympic season now. So we're going to be off for 3 weeks at Rico and Perlo's house of Exotic Jaime's Picks Frolic. But if you haven't already, you might want to subscribe. If you like making money and having a ton of fun, if you enjoy that sort of thing, you probably want to subscribe to this channel, because we do both of those things there. You come on in the comment section and ask anyone. We do well. It's very well. Also, I'm on the Ice Guys Monday and Wednesdays. So when the Olympics are over on Wednesday, the first day, I'll be on the Ice Guys. The Ice Guys are voted the best betting podcast in North America. Highly recommend you to subscribe to that too. Thanks for coming in, everybody. if I got some more stuff to do, I will do it. I will be doing more videos. I got like 3 weeks and nothing to do. So talk to you later. Okay, bye.